Who run this mother? Hey, who run this mother? Who run the world? Girls, girls, girlies. Who bloody runs the world? We do. Hashtag spoiler alert. No, we don't, because we live in a patriarchy. And, well, that was a strong start. Hello, everyone. Hello. How the bloody hell are you? Welcome back to the Weekly Wigs on this fine Saturday afternoon. Well, it's not very fine. It's raining and it's grey outside. But what's new? It's the UK. We're in the pretend spring, when really we're just in a third winter. Certainly up in Manchester, up north, it's very bloody cold, windy, stormy, haily. All of the weather systems have welcomed us this week. Been a shot back down to reality after the wonderful spring sunshine that I basked in last week. But alas, it's fine. Only hopefully a few more weeks of dread to go through. And then, come on, Miss Summer. Come through, Miss Summer. You know what? Miss Spring this year, she decided, girlies, I'm actually just not in the mood. 2026, Mercury's in retrograde, or whatever they bloody call it. And I'm taking a break. I'm out of office. I'm going to go on annual leave. So good luck, hens. I'll see you next year. Because I just don't think we're going to see a spring at this point. So kind of accepted that fate. We'll just hang on. We'll hang on for dear life and we'll make it summer. But you know what? The skin is glowing, girlies. Can I just say, sorry, little side tangent here. Already starting off with the side tangents. I've been getting into my skincare routine, girlies. Let me just tell you. Well, first of all, I do have the assistance of a ring light right now that's probably helping me with the lighting just slightly. And I don't know how this will actually end up looking in the export. But when I'm looking at myself in the camera here, I'm sorry, my skin be glowing. My skin is glowing. If you don't watch the video pod, swipe up on your Spotify app right now or go onto YouTube and you'll see me in all 4K. But you know what? I am not a girl who has ever really taken skincare all that seriously. I've always been a very good water drinker, which I know is just generally good for your skin and hydration anyway. And other than just like your casual splash in the face with a little bit of soap every now and again, if I'm being so honest, I've never really probably treated my skin the way I should have been. I mean, I know there's like this argument that like the less you put on your face, sometimes low-key the better, because your skin is obviously a sensitive part of your body and it's like you don't want to harm it with too many chemicals and products, and there's so many millions of chemicals and products and all sorts out there in the beauty and skin industry. But I guess because I'm not like a makeup wearer either, I always just try and leave my skin be for the most part, which I think is honestly probably a more positive thing to do for your skin in general. But sometimes I think as we age, there's no harm in dipping into that little beauty bag and going, hey, maybe we'll just plump her up a bit. With aging comes all the wrinkles, and not that I'm opposed to that, because I am a believer that you want to show life on your skin, show that you've lived, show the wrinkles where the smile and the laughter and the tears have taken place. Not to get too woo-woo so early on in this pod, but I think it's nice to accept that part of your life and to accept aging and to see it on someone's face. Because let's be honest, we live in a world where I think beauty standards are pushed in a very opposite direction, where, of course, being a woman, we must criticise you for aging and we must find everything in the book to go against you. I mean, well, let me not get on my political high horse right here, but you know what I'm trying to say. And, the Botox, the filler of it all. Not that I don't honestly care what you choose to do with your face. It's your prerogative, whatever you do with your body, your life, whatever. But I guess maybe I'm just personally someone that tries to push back against, the narrative of beauty standards, in the sense that society and capitalism does like to make us think that we all need to follow that standard. And it's not a standard at the end of the day. It's just a certain sect of society that choose to follow those trends and choose that for themselves, which is absolutely fine. But I'm just trying to go au naturel out here, okay? That's always been my vibe. I'm just that kind of girl. But like I said, I'm not averse to reaching in that little beauty bag and going, hey, if I can give myself a lovely little glowing look and keep the skin all nice and healthy, why would I not use whatever tools are out there to maybe assist in that? Because obviously there is a reason for these products in the first place. They do actually help. So I've been learning about vitamin C serums this week. Who knew? I guess it's honestly not much different to how you would approach wellness and health and taking multivitamins for your body. And I just think perhaps as you get older, you get a bit more in tune with that. Your body maybe just needs a little bit more help with those things because it's not quite as young and spry as in your 20s, and you're not able to bounce back quite as quick for certain things. But to be honest, I'm just trying to generally keep it quite simple. So I'm keeping my skin moisturised. That's something I never used to use before, which is kind of crazy work because I feel like that's just the most standard in skincare. But not for this gal. I was like, bit of water, I'll do. Who needs anything else? But actually, I think you realise, oh, your skin does get like quite dry actually, especially in a country like the UK where it gets a bit cold and dry a lot of the time. So started using some Nivea SPF 15, just really basic day cream. My mum actually introduced that to me like a year or so ago because they also do this like tinted moisturiser, which is actually quite good as like a dupe for sort of makeup foundation. If you don't really want to do the whole cake your face in 1,000 things, just put a bit of Nivea tinted moisture on. Gives you like a little bit of a look, bit of a glow, does the job. Anyway, so I've just been trying to moisturise the skin, which I think after probably a year of doing so, I can only assume is good for me. And then as of late, I was just, it's probably because I've taken a bit more of an interest in it. My algorithm clearly on the TikTok these days is like going, oh, skincare routine, look at these products, let's entice you. And yeah, so, you know, your gal has been influenced. I'm not mad about it though. I'm kind of having fun, just like trialing and seeing what it does to my face. And I'm like pleasantly surprised with the results so far. I also found this amazing thing in Home Bargains. I'm telling you, Home Bargains is my girl. I fucking love going to Home Bargains. I go like nearly every week. Just have a little pot around, pick up random shit that I don't need. But they really do literally have some bargains in there. Like there's so many good beauty products in there, and often they're a lot cheaper than your standard supermarkets or Boots or whatever. Found this really nice vitamin C foam face wash, just a really basic, just a light foam wash that you would use in the shower first thing in the morning, and it's got one of those like little pump things, and at the end of the pump there's like this little brush. Oh, girls, I'm living in luxury. I'm living in luxury for all of £3.40 or whatever it fucking cost me. In fact, I think it literally was £2.99. I don't know where I got the figure £3.40 from. I just plucked that out of thin air. I think it actually did cost £2.99, which is truly a bargain. And I can't, it's like giving your face a massage. You pump it and then it comes out on the little brush thing and you just like scrub it in. And I'm in the shower and I'm getting into every crevice. And it literally gives me like the tingles. Kind of like tingles you would get with a massage, or like if you're into ASMR and it just relaxes the body. And I'm like, oh, this is the best part of my day. I love it. And then I follow up that shortly with my little SPF moisturiser, because SPF's important for the skincare, girls. We don't want to get no skin cancer out here. Protect your skin from the sunshine, not that we fucking have any of it. But, you know, SPF and UV rays, it all still exists no matter what the weather. And then, you know, I know I just like 2 seconds ago said, I'm going to wrinkle and I'm all about like aging gracefully. I have, however, seen in a lot of these videos that apparently retinol is good for your skin. If I'm being honest, I don't know that it's doing anything. I just spotted it in Home Bargains. It was like a L'Oreal anti-wrinkle retinol day cream. Promotes like, I guess, just plumper, nicer skin. I just thought, well, I'm in my 30s now. Like, they say apparently you should start these things early if you want to keep a bit of a youthful look. Again, now I'm actually sat here fully questioning my entire ethos of like, why am I using it? Do I care? Does it really have any benefits other than potentially not making me wrinkly? I don't really know. Anyway, I've been using it. It's alright. I don't know that it's doing much, so I feel like it's just one of those products that when I run out of it, I'm probably not that arsed about restocking it, and I'm just using it for the sake of it. But I put that on directly after my moisturiser. And then the most newest product I picked up a few days ago, also from Home Bargains, although I've now since found a serum in all of all places, Lidl. Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Some skin expert out there is probably putting their head in their hands thinking, how can she go to Lidl for her skincare? You're getting scammed. And hey, you might be right. maybe there are chemicals in there. Maybe it's not the most legit product. It was also like £3. Is that a bad sign? I don't know. But I just got to say, I'm sorry. Look at the skin. Does the skin not look pretty great right now, if I do say so myself? It's like smooth. Something about that vitamin C serum, it's sort of, I think the science of that is that it brings your blood vessels a bit more to the surface. So it gives you like low-key, like a bit of a tan, like, in a really weird way. Like when I first tried this cream thing the other day, I don't think the cream was the best. It made me almost look like a bit red and blotchy. And I was like, oh, I don't think my skin is like that one so much. So I put the cream to the side and I tried the serum instead. Just a few little drops, really nice and smooth on the face. And it sort of like brings this glow to your face. I'm like, and I mean, who can argue against vitamin C? Vitamin C is good for you, right? As is vitamin D. So, girl, I'm just saying, I'm on this skincare hype. I'm hoping it stays. I feel like my skin looks pretty all right now. I'm not too mad about it. So that's where I'm at today, girly. That's probably like my most exciting life update in terms of just normal life. I lead such a thrilling life out here, girlies. You know how it goes. But you know what? The vibes are feeling strong. I think I'm excited at the fact that next weekend is a bank holiday. Bring back the bank holidays in the UK. We have such a long slog in winter, don't we? Where it's like, oh God, I just need some extended time off. The weather needs to improve. It needs to get lighter, all the rest of it. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I've just been surviving through every month of winter. I haven't been away on holidays, to be perfectly honest. I haven't really been able to afford it because travel's just so expensive. But I'm hoping in the coming months, I'm just gonna say, fuck it, put it on the credit card and just take myself for a little sunshine somewhere, because I think there just comes a point where you realise you could die tomorrow. You can pay off what you need to on a credit card. You're not going to like have a meltdown if you have to take a little bit longer to pay something off. I don't know why. I'm just so like paranoid sometimes about that kind of stuff, which I think is not a bad trait. I think it's sensible to obviously not just be crazy, dangerous and frivolous with money that you don't have, but also isn't that like kind of the invention of credit cards? Like, isn't that supposed to help us out a bit in tough times? These winters do feel like tough times, and you know, your gal's just longing for a break. So you know, we'll see how that pans out. How did I get onto that point in the first place? Why did I start talking about that? The brain fog. The brain fog's just come out of nowhere. Girlies, this is a prime in action example, I think, of like PMS brain fog. I am doing my period in the next week, and I've been very tired this week, having to take lots of naps. My concentration has been a bit lacking. And that right there, I just don't even know why I started talking about that. Why did I start talking about holidays? I just don't know. Prior to that, I was talking about vitamin C in my skincare. How did I hop from that to that? Am I actually low-key ADHD? I just don't know at this point. Like, brain, why are you playing that head? Anyway, how has your week been, gang? How have you all been? Oh, that was it. I was talking about the fact that I was excited for a break coming up because it's Easter holiday next weekend. Oh, sorry. We do usually get back there in the end. I can't believe we're actually coming up to April already. Like, where have the 3 months gone? In some senses, I feel like they've been the longest 3 months of my entire life because winter. But also, it is kind of strange when it comes to it and you're just like, oh, we're just in April. All right then, cool. Do you have any Easter plans, my huns? What are you all doing? Do you know what? I actually thought that I was gonna make this like my last episode for a little bit of a spring Easter break. I think, to be honest, there might just be 1 week off now because I wasn't really sure how my April was going to pan out. I think now, however, might have an exciting prospect for my next guest, my friend Josie, who I have mentioned a few times on this podcast. And I have had in the works a bit of a podcast episode around like moving and traveling, or more so like moving to other countries, because she moved to Spain and lives in Barcelona from Cardiff in Wales. I moved from Cardiff in Wales up to Manchester, and we have just like a shared lived experience just about that general moving away from home situation. And that was always our planned topic to have a little chat about. And so obviously just shoot the shit. And I'm having an exciting little weekend trip there in about 2 or so weeks' time. And because of that, I initially was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do my pod that weekend. Like, might just have to give like it a miss. And then that's where my logic was going to thinking, do I just like skip out April as a month and start? I wasn't really sure what to do. But now I'm kind of in the swing of things, and I should still be able to do a podcast while I'm there. Because actually, to be honest, even though I might not be able to take my full equipment and mic, she's thankfully got a MacBook, which is what I do my pod on. I can log into my little software here that I record my podcast on. And maybe we'll just do a little hour recording if we can figure that out. So that's my current plan. She actually doesn't know about this plan, so... Well, she kind of half does because I mentioned it, but I just didn't confirm it. So newsflash, Josie, if you're listening to this now, or maybe you don't listen to it in time, but that's what I'm planning to do when I come to you. We got to give the people what they want, and, you know, got to give the girls the goods. And it's always fun to have a guest on the pod, so I always take advantage of my friends where I can to be like, hey, girlie, want to come keep me company? We could just chat some shit. That'd be lovely. We also have some plans to do some fun like TikTok content and some silly little challenges. Do you know what? I'm actually so going to like link some stuff in this bio because... Oh, there's a video of me and Josie that just cracks me up beyond belief. We did that Sprite challenge, if you remember that. One of those viral, silly challenges where you're supposed to try and drink like an entire bottle of Sprite all in like one go without burping. And if you've obviously ever had Sprite, or I know like all pop like makes you burp, but there's something specific about Sprite that is really like full of bubbles, and it's just literally, that's why they call it the Sprite challenge, because it's so hard to do it without it feeling like, oh. And anyway, it's a very comedic video, just like I'm sure most guys are aware of what it is, but it usually results in like this insanely pent up burp that comes out very like non-human like. And me and her did that when we were in Barcelona a few years ago, and it's just one of my favourite videos. Makes me laugh so much. So if you want some quick entertainment, I'll link it below. Make sure to come follow me on TikTok, because I do all sorts of random content on there. I really am on a mission. I'm trying so hard to get to 10,000 followers on TikTok. This has literally been my mission probably for the last like 5 years. I've been going hard in the paint on TikTok. Just got to put that out there. So it greatly means a lot when people come and support me there. Because in line with like the podcast and trying to make this like a full-time thing, the reality is that followers matter. Like you can't basically monetize or make money from any of this stuff unless you hit a certain amount of followers, which is obviously a bummer because it never really used to be that way. It was kind of like views is what would have equaled revenue, but that's not how it works these days on all social media platforms. You have to usually meet thresholds. So even on Spotify, like all of this right now, I obviously am doing it for the genuine passion and love, but my deep down dream, which I've made quite clear on this podcast before, is I would love to make it like a profitable, realistic life. Do you know what I mean? Like I would like to do this full time and delve even more into content creation and just connecting with more people. Like it would just be a really exciting thing to do. But it's a very hard dream to achieve. Not that I'm giving up on it, but it's like it's only ever possible with the support of people who listen and follow to your content or your podcast or whatever it is. And so I know it's a bit boring to always hear like, subscribe guys, subscribe and follow, blah, blah, blah. But like, I say that so often because like so many people don't commit to it. And it's like, please. I'm out here begging on my knees. Like just all you got to do is take 5 seconds of your life to just click a button and go follow, subscribe. I don't even care if you don't engage or you don't comment or you just, there's a lot of like silent viewers out there, which I respect and appreciate. I'm probably one too for many other creators, but like, it's when people don't subscribe and you think, come on, I know you listen. Because I see my stats and there's more people that listen than subscribe. And it's like, oh, it's infuriating because you're trying to grow the channel. And like I said, Spotify, I got to get 1,000 subscribers, and YouTube, you need 1,000 before you can really do anything with it. I'm on 19 whole subscribers on YouTube right now, which I love every single one of you. If anyone wants to be my 20th subscriber, please do hit that button right now. Equally with Spotify, I think I've only got like 11 followers or subscribers on Spotify. But again, I know I get a few more listeners than that. So sometimes it's obviously hard to like garner in an audience to stay like loyal to you. So I hope that with all my life that I am entertaining enough for you, or you like this space enough to feel that you want to stick around. I would obviously always encourage that you listen back to some earlier episodes and sort of follow the journey. Some of you will have potentially followed my journey already and you're just hopping along on this part, which is very exciting and I'm very grateful for. But yeah, again, why didn't I start talking about that? God, guys, it's actually not funny. I'm sorry. Like being a woman is a challenge. Like men, I'm sorry. I don't think you'll ever understand what it's like to be in a female's body and have a brain that just poof. All because you have a uterus. Like, I'm sorry, someone needs to explain this to me, because how does that link? I don't understand. Why does the brain just go into thin air? Just give me a second. Let me just work on it. I will remember. It will come back to me. I was talking about subscribers. What was I talking about before that? I think I need to start like transcripting myself as I go. So this feels like me live in action when I'm doing my voice clips to my friends in the group chat and I'm like, woo! I go on so much and then I just forget everything I've said. And then sometimes I repeat myself and I'm like, sorry guys, I've just already said that, but it is what it is. I sometimes question, is this just my brain normally? Or is this because I'm PMSing and I know that hormones are fluctuating all over the place? I don't know. Well, do you know what? Funny enough, that does kind of very nicely segue me on to like today's topic that I wanted to talk about in relation to hormones and gender and sex and all this stuff. So I am feeling very disheartened with the world as of late for various reasons, which to be honest, I've been in to those kind of topics, obviously, a multitude of times. We have Politics Corner on this pod, where we just discuss all things going on in the world. You know, the world's been going through it. Globe's going through a tough time. There's a big shift in energy, in the power structures of the world. Trump's back, ruining all of our lives. There's war left, right and centre. The global crisis, I think, is at its worst point possible. The world's hurting. The world is hurting. The economy is hurting. I think we all can relate to that. Everyone that I know in life is just constantly having a bit of a struggle, or we're all equally moaning about the cost of our bills, the cost of living. Like, it's a whole thing, isn't it? And in line with just all the general struggles of the world, the one thing that I try to not take for granted, where I feel somewhat privileged and lucky, at least throughout my woes, is that at least at the minute, my personal rights as a human are not being ripped away and affected. Yes, as a woman, I'm up against a lot of challenges, as we all often are as women, but that's kind of not what this episode is about. But I'm thankful, and this is such a sad thing to have to say, but I'm thankful that I am not a trans person living in this country right now, or just this world, because I'm so sorry. This is what I need to talk about today, is just the absolute insanity of regression that is going on and being targeted specifically at trans people as of late. The trans debate, if you'd like to call it that. One of my favourite books that I have mentioned on this podcast before, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, or politics, or just world stuff in general, Deborah Frances-White, she is a podcaster and a comedian and like a female rights activist. She's really, really good. She's got an amazing podcast called The Guilty Feminist, which I'm a big fan of. And she wrote a really good book called 6 Conversations We're Scared to Have. I've actually done a little mini TikTok book review about that before. So do you know what? Give me 1 second. I'm just going to insert my little TikTok here just so you can hear me talking about this book so you understand the context of it. So here it is. Welcome to Megan's Book Club 101. Now, she's not usually a big reader. It's taken me a long time in life to get around to books, but I gotta give a shout out to this book. It's called 6 Conversations We're Scared to Have by Deborah Frances-White. You might have heard of her. I've been a long-time listener of the Guilty Feminist podcast. She is the host and creator of that. She also writes books too. We're getting a little bit political, getting a little bit social on the TikTok here, but this is the kind of theme of the book. Different conversations that we're scared to have as a society. I'll read you a little bit of a blurb. An essential guide for fostering nuanced conversations in today's polarised society. I'm halfway through the book and I just have to read this very specific section in the chapter about gender non-conformity, sort of talking about the trans debate, female rights, all very interlinked. And I just think, if this doesn't sum up what's going on globally, I don't know what else does. I thought it was a really fascinating read. This really does highlight the importance of awareness of what is going on around you. I know it's very easy to want to ignore politics and things happening in the big scary world. Trust me, I've been that person. I've grown up with no interest in politics, news, very much in denial, in a dream world, la 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 la. But as I've grown older, into my 30s, I've really started to take an interest in it. I think that honestly just comes with maturity and growth, and your interests come more aligned with who you are as a person. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to share this particular passage that explains what's really going on. Got to get my best reading voice on now. Okay, so for a bit of context, it's a discussion about transgender issues, how the sort of far right and all these religious groups are making it a bigger thing than it is, right? And here's the bit I found quite eye-opening. Agenda Europa was created in January 2013 out of a meeting that took place in London involving approximately 20 North American and European anti-abortion leaders and strategic advisors who aim to develop a Christian-inspired European think tank and devise new strategies for European anti-abortion movements. I'll skip ahead a little bit. She just writes about the context of that group coming together. Once we allow the anti-gender lobby to shape our policy and become people of influence in our society, they will use that position to get to other things on their agenda. Documents have been uncovered that reveal a detailed extremist strategy called Restoring the Natural Order, an Agenda for Europe. Crazy. Which seeks to overturn existing laws on basic human rights related to sexuality and reproduction, such as the right to divorce, for a woman to access contraception, assisted reproduction technologies, or have an abortion, equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans or intersex, and the right to change one's gender or sex without fear of legal repercussions. This is real, this is happening. If that doesn't say it all, I don't know what does. This is definitely not the type of content that I ever do, but I just felt like sharing it with the world. So thanks for joining my Book Talk 101 club. Happy reading! So that book is just a generally insightful book. Honestly, one of the best books I ever read. And this was kind of very deep into my exploration of just activism, politics, but like really learning about this stuff as I go along. And don't get me wrong, I'm not the full expert at this point. These are just my general opinions and views that I've formed over things that I'm reading about and learning. And so within that book, there is a chapter specifically dedicated to the trans debate, or more so, gender non-conformity. And it's a really good read, or if you don't like reading, just listen to the audiobook. If you've got Spotify Premium, you can actually listen to it for free on there, which I only just discovered. So I'm actually currently reading/listening to that because I physically read it before, and now I'm listening back to it, which is really good. But there's this part in the chapter, she's obviously, without like trying to spoil the entire book or go into the whole thing, because I can't just sit here and do a full book club with you, but she's obviously talking about the fact, as the book title says, 6 conversations we're scared to have, and things that people are scared to talk about is the trans debate, because for some bizarre reason it's just turned into this very like taboo thing. It's really not very different to how like gay people were treated in the 80s. And in this chapter, she actually references the comparisons to what that was like in the 80s to what we're seeing today, and how sort of it's not very dissimilar to honestly what they experienced then and what's just happening in another way today. She made note of the fact that in the US, homosexuality was actually declared a mental illness from 1952 to 1973, and for any men that were engaging in homosexual practices were not decriminalised, even in somewhere like New York, that was a very liberal state, that was not decriminalised until 1980. And of course the 1980s was also where we saw sort of the AIDS epidemic and all of the world freaking out because they all thought that everyone was going to die if they touch a gay man. And it's like, if you've ever watched that series It's a Sin, which is absolutely heart-wrenching and a beautiful programme, by the way, Russell T Davies, chef's kiss. But that explores that time and those stories. And it's just, we sit here now in 2026 and we look back at those things and you just think, how awful that those people were treated that way. In the book, she goes on to reference a journalist called Terry Sanderson, who was a UK journalist for the Gay Times, and there was a column he had called Media Watch, where the column basically like highlights sort of headlines of the moments of those times. And these are just a few examples of some of the like newspaper publication headlines that existed during the 1980s about gay men and all of that kind of stuff, right? So the Times in 1985, is it wise to share a lavatory with a homosexual? I mean, you can't even like fathom that people would say that, right? Another similar one, The Spectator, 1985. Given an inch, the homosexuals demand all. The Express, 1985. Why was the Reverend Gregory Richardson, a homosexual, employed as a chaplain in the prison service? God knows how many people he has infected with the disease. This man happened to be HIV positive. I mean, like, those are, we understand and accept now that is madness. Like, it feels so awful to think that was acceptable language, behaviour, blasted across newspaper headlines. And it's obviously just terrifying, right? Like, how discriminatory and how horrible people were to say that about just a gay man living his life. Obviously, we've come to learn that just because you're HIV positive with a bit of education, science and understanding, we're not going to infect the whole world. Everyone's safe from the gays. Like, it's just a ridiculous thing to think that that's what their views were. But in fairness, what she points out in the book, Deborah Frances-White, is that like you have to remember that in the US in particular, there were 14 states where engaging in homosexual practices weren't decriminalised until 2003. And like, if 20 odd years ago, in the grand schemes of history, 20 years ago, unfortunately, is not a lot of time. So in some senses, you can sort of see how that would have been the rhetoric back then and how there would have been just so much time for things to change. But my thing is about like the whole trans issues that we see these days and all the discrimination that trans people have to face is like, with all due respect, we've been through this historically, and this just obviously doesn't even apply to just people's sexuality. This applies to people's skin colour, their all of it, right? Like there's so many examples we can think of in history where we are discriminating a human based on something they were born with, or they were, you know what I mean? It's like, why have we not, as a human race, learned from these behaviours and these patterns? And why are we so fearful? It's like ingrained into us. People are fearful of change, or they see things as being very taboo. And I sometimes find it very perplexing that we can't, as human brains, just come together and recognise patterns. I unfortunately don't think that maybe that's just human evolution. I just don't really know. I personally can't understand or relate to it because I don't think that way. I have grown up as a young person in a world where, thankfully, being gay isn't a sin, believe it or not. And like, I didn't grow up in a household where anyone was a homophobe or like, you know, we weren't discriminating people. I didn't happen to have anyone in my life specifically at a very young age who was gay or who I knew it was gay. But I didn't think, it was not even like a thought to me. It's just, oh, they just are who they are. Who cares? Frankly, I don't care. Great for you. I'm straight, you're gay. We all breathe the same air. Love you, girl. Like, as long as you're not a dick to me, I really couldn't care who you are, what your skin colour is, who you fuck in the bedroom. I really don't care. But I think, unfortunately, not everybody has that same upbringing, do they? They don't live in households where even just general acceptance or just not caring that much. Like, I just don't know why people take so much time and energy to be so deeply offended by someone's natural being. Like, it's not even like, oh, it's a choice. It's not even a choice among people. Like, no, you were just born what you are, and we love you either way. Like, it's very sad that so much vitriol and hatred can exist in someone's upbringing and their beliefs, that they feel so passionate to go against it. I mean, a lot of this obviously can tie into, unfortunately, religious beliefs and how you see lots of these pretend Christians, shall we say, who, you know, at the end of the day, the Bible says, love thy neighbour. It shouldn't really go against all your neighbours. But if you're gay, absolutely not. And we know we see that a lot in America, and there's like all these crazy people with crosses, and they're like, you're a sinner, Jesus will repent you. I mean, Americans are just like a whole other level, but like, I'm not even going to get down that rabbit hole, but it's just sad. Like, the basis of human existence is that we should all be kind to one another. And unfortunately, people don't see it that way. They see it as their moral duty. It's their deep beliefs. It goes against what I believe in. It goes against the text of the Bible. It's a sin. And it's just, when you're not obviously from that kind of background or upbringing, it is very concerning when you see that behaviour and you just think, girlies, what are we living in? The fucking Stone Ages. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, people have had those beliefs for many centuries, but like with most things in life, you just move with the times. The same way that, yeah, it's really shocking right now in hindsight to see those headlines that were spoken about gay men and the HIV outbreak and all the rest of it. And it's shocking and easy for us to understand that now because times have moved forward. And so again, like linking back to the trans thing, it's like, guys, how long have like trans people been existing for? Like quite some time. And just because it's not like as mainstream and as visible, shall we say, as, you know, the acceptance we have for gay and lesbian people, it's just like, why are we acting like this is new information? It's just, I guess a lot of it also probably just comes from a bit of miseducation, which I think a lot of people are susceptible to the fake news of it all these days. That's like a whole problem in itself. And actually, honestly, when you think about it, probably a big part in culture is like, where are we seeing the representation of trans people? We don't, unfortunately, see it as much as we probably should be. And you know what? Deborah Frances-White made this quite good point in her chapter where she sort of referenced the TV program Modern Family, and she's talking about like actually the importance of media and television and representation and how it can like really massively globally impact people's viewpoints. And I don't have like the chapter in front of me, so you'll have to go watch it, read it or listen to it. But she had like these really good stats that basically indicated that during like the 11 years that Modern Family was on the television, which by the way, if you're not familiar with Modern Family is, first of all, go watch it because it's an iconic program. It's just a comedy about like an American family who are all blended. There's a gay couple in it. There's all sorts going on, right? There's a lot of themes about that's why it's called Modern Family. And it was just a really successful program globally, but particularly in America, which is why it ran for so many years. We're talking like it's in the category of like Friends, Will and Grace, all these like iconic kind of sitcom programs that have been going for years. And they did some study and it was sort of percentages of American people or the American public that advocated for gay marriage or something. I mean, I'm not saying this was all down to Modern Family, and she states that in the book, but it's not unsurprising that there's a correlation there when you see visual representation and you see it in a format of entertainment. It becomes almost like more accessible to people and a way for them to understand people's experiences, I guess, shall we just say for the sake of argument, in a less harsh way than perhaps like what politicians might explain to you. So if a politician or an MP is there giving you a lecture about why you should support gay rights and blah, 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 for some reason people get a bit on the defence. They don't like being lectured almost. But when it's sort of delivered to you in a funny comedy sitcom and you see sort of these experiences of people's lives depicted, it feels a bit more real, shall we say? And it was just basically showing that the stats had just like skyrocketed from pre-Modern Family being on the air and post-Modern Family. And the American stats had just like greatly increased in terms of acceptance. And I was like, honestly, that's like a really interesting study because I like can see how that would happen, That's why media and culture and entertainment is so impactful in the world. And I guarantee you could probably find something similar with, that Netflix program or film Adolescence that came out. Like, they usually have these kind of studies where you can see like a spike in Google trends and searches, like post a really big, like, topical moment or a big program that's come out. Like, they definitely do correlate for sure. Because we're all humans and we all ingest this like entertainment and media, so it kind of links. But anyway, but yeah. Oh, hang on a minute. What's the point I was just going to make? Oh, for God's sake! Literally, I should title this entire podcast today needs to be titled "Meg's Brain Fog and Forgetting Every Trail of Thought." We do eventually get there. It does piece together, so it's fine. I'm sure you guys that have been listening for long enough now on my 22nd episode, I think this is, hopefully you've got to know my personality by now and how this little brain works. Well, it's not a little brain, it's a big brain. I'm going to pick myself up. How this brain works, and we just float in and out of consciousness concentration, and that's okay. But in a roundabout way, we somehow get back to it. I will just refer to my notes. 1 minute caller. Oh, that's actually what I wanted to sort of bring up. So obviously all this chat now about, the trans debate, we've referenced how attitudes change, how things were in the 80s, where we're at now as a society, and how obviously it's a bit perplexing to me personally that we don't seem to have caught up with like realizing in real time that, so just trans people now are just the new version of gay men in the 80s. Like, we're just finding a group of people to attack and to pick on for no reason. So I guess I just hope in time that like we can look back in another 20 years time and go, oh my God, the things that happened to the trans community were so disgusting, so unbelievable. I mean, the fact that like there's not more people in real time that can recognize this, I think is what I find alarming, because like I was saying, I've grown up in a time where I'm very familiar with just acceptance of who you are. So to know that there's quite a lot of people out there that are the complete opposite is what is just obviously very scary to be amongst. And an example of something that I think we're probably going to look back in time and think, question marks. Something that's actually happened in this last week, which is a bit more relevant, is there's a lot of discussion going on because the Olympic Committee have just recently banned trans athletes for the first time, basically, Which is obviously not a positive step when it comes to just the rights of trans peoples, right? I'm going to just sort of refer to the article that's on The Guardian about this and just go through a few points, because I'm going to be honest. Look, when it comes to trans knowledge, issues, debate, all of it, at the end of the day, I am a cisgendered white woman. I obviously have no experience or understand people's personal journeys, and I don't know the ins and outs of it. Like, I'm not an expert. Like I said at the start, these are just my general thoughts and opinions based off what is going on, what I see, what I read, all the rest of it. So I do just want to preface that before I start giving opinions and talking about these things that I might not be right. And if anyone cares to engage in debate or educate me on things that I might be wrong about, I fully am open to that. So one area of trans rights, if you like, that I have never delved probably deep enough to understand the two sides of the debate, shall we say, is probably in the world of sports, because that does seem to be a very, very prominent sticking point for a lot of people when maybe you're just having conversation with your family or in life with friends or whatever. There does seem to be quite a conflicting view on this one in particular, and the general argument is that, well, at the end of the day, it's not biologically fair because, if you're a trans woman, but, you were born biologically male, then you've got far more testosterone and you've got more physical strength to, beat your opponent. That's kind of the surface level argument, right, that you hear on one side. And there's been times where you can listen to something like that and you do kind of think, maybe they're right. And I say this as obviously a full feminist who is not of the belief that men are better than women in any way, shape or form. But sometimes you do sit there and what you understand or know from biology or what you've always been taught from a young age is men are stronger than women, so that must be right. But I think, truthfully, my overall thoughts about it is that there's far more nuance to it. And then I sit there, I listen to some other kind of debates on the other side of the coin, and I think, actually, no, that's such a valid point, because sometimes even, let's just take male athletes, for example, regardless of gender, even at this point, there's so many physical advantages that anyone can have, even in the same gender category. Do you know what I mean? Some people can have wider frames, bigger muscles. I don't know that this focus on the gender of someone has to be so bigged up in a sense. And unsurprisingly, what it feels like a lot of the time to me is we're once again kind of scapegoating a certain group. So the one thing that's standing out to me, right, with this Olympics ban. So again, sorry, let me just go back to what's actually happened. So basically the IOC, which is the Olympic committee, they basically released new guidelines that were announced last Friday. Yesterday. Today I'm recording on Saturday. That mandates genetic sex tests for all athletes competing in its women's categories, as well as blanket bans of people who identify as transgender, intersex, or with sex differences. So first of all, just point that out there, right? Genetic sex tests for all athletes competing in its women's categories. I'm sorry, if you care that much, why aren't you doing your genetic sex tests for the male category? You know what I mean? That just feels like a prime example to me of you're already othering a certain group of people, and I don't know, that bit I just thought was a bit strange. So let's just get some more of the facts though of this particular thing and what the reaction is, because it's always interesting to see what people are saying. So again, this is an article from The Guardian, which was published yesterday. Human rights experts raise concerns over Olympics transgender women athlete ban. Critics say new IOC guidelines violate fundamental human rights. Over 100 human rights, sports and scientific groups have criticised the International Olympic Committee's new gender eligibility guidelines as a blunt and discriminatory response that is not supported by science and violates international human rights law. The IOC's new guidelines, that's the bit I just said, mandate genetic sex tests, blah, 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 blah. Athletes in these categories have been allowed to compete in Olympic events since the IOC scrapped mandatory sex testing in 1999, which was deemed arbitrary, inaccurate, expensive, and discriminatory. I'm sorry, but the ruling was there back in the fucking 90s, for God's sake. So why all of a sudden are we changing our minds? This is what I'm saying. The world is shifting. Opinions are flying left, right, and centre. More right-wing things are taking over. I think I personally, in my true beliefs, feel like this is a non-issue, as most trans quote-unquote issues. Like, even the bathroom debate of like, oh, we shouldn't be allowing them in, but that's such a non-issue. All this sort of nonsense, ridiculed lies that we are putting on trans people, that they are the threat. Oh, my kids aren't safe. A couple of weeks ago when I was in town and I saw the LGB Alliance, I actually spoke about this briefly on my podcast episode with Liam a couple of episodes back. So if you want to listen to us have a chat about that, then go check that one out. But the LGB Alliance, not the LGBT Alliance, you notice how they specifically take out the T for trans. The LGB Alliance, a British anti-transgender advocacy group founded in 2019 in opposition to the policies of LGBT rights charity Stonewall on transgender issues. This is their tagline from their website. We provide information, community and support to LGB people in a world where being lesbian, gay or bisexual is once again under threat. Just bear in mind, right, all these fucking founders of these hate groups, they're all just like old white women. They fit perfectly under the TERF category. J.K. Rowling, there's more to get into there, but just bear with me a second. But like, these groups, they all stand there and they just claim that like, this is a threat, everything's a threat. Nothing is a threat. It's such a non-issue. The percentage of like trans people in existence is so small compared to the rest of the world. You know what I actually want to do right now? I want to play this video, one or two TikTok videos. I thought this was quite a good TikTok account that sort of explained the Olympic banning issue, probably articulating a little bit better than I ever could. But let me just play this for you, 1 second. This is from a TikTok account called Harrison Brown, so credit where credit's due. I hope you can hear this on the mic.
IOC has officially banned trans women from participating in the Olympics. This just came out today. In the statement, they said eligibility for any female category event at the Olympic Games or any other IOC event is now limited to biological females, determined on the basis of a one-time SRY gene screening. So trans women have been able to participate in the Olympics since 2004. That is 22 years. Guess how many trans women have won an Olympic gold medal? 0. Guess how many trans women have won a medal at all? 0. Guess how many trans women have actually participated? Wow. Surely she must...
One! Like that, I guess that was trying to demonstrate my point. Like, one fucking athlete. Anyway, let me carry on.
Done really well. No, actually, this athlete was a weightlifter named Laurel Hubbard, competed for New Zealand and placed last. It really seems like trans women participating in the Olympics is a non-issue, because it is. But what is a big issue is sex testing now coming back. So sex testing has a really sordid history throughout sports, but the 60s was where we saw like a lot of nude parades and sex testing that had to deal with genital exams and groping of 15 and 16-year-old girls. So it moved to more chromosomal testing. You were gifted a certificate of femininity if you passed. And any time that your gender was put into question, you had to show your certificate of femininity. So that was obviously done away with. And then in the 90s, the sex testing was completely abolished because it was deemed as scientifically flawed. There were false positives and it was seen as discriminatory. The chromosomes that your body has, it's not just male, female. It is a huge spectrum and there's a lot of gray areas. And that's why sex testing was done away with, because these results and disqualifying of athletes was seen as arbitrary. So the thing about these tests is that it is never done on the men's side. The athletic advantage that another man holds over another man because what their body is naturally able to produce is never questioned. The biggest example that we can point to is Michael Phelps. He is scientifically proven to have biological advantage over his swimming peers, and yet those advantages are celebrated rather than capped. Trans women are not an issue. What is an issue is the policing of women's bodies and the surveillance and the whistleblowing effect that now this moral panic around trans athletes. We saw it in the last Summer Olympics with boxer Amin Khalif, who with the International Boxing Association failed a unspecified gender test that the results were not scrutinized and they couldn't provide enough evidence to the IOC, and the IOC actually stood up for this athlete, saying that this testing was sudden and arbitrary, and Amin Khalif was able to participate in the Olympics. We're just going to see more and more of that as every single athlete in the female category is going to be subject to these tests. We are taking so many steps backwards. We've had 30 years of progress where we've abolished these crazy sex testings, and now suddenly we're seeing it pop back up. IOC has officially banned.
So well put. I really, really like that TikTok. Maybe I'll link it in the bio. Like, I just felt like that summarized it really well. And when I'm listening to that side of the debate, I'm thinking, actually, honestly, this just makes so much fucking sense because it's so right. Like, first of all, you are completely isolating it to just women's sports all of a sudden. That in itself is a problem. And then that whole thing about, like, Michael Phelps as an example, like, it's so true. Like, there's probably so many instances where you can argue that, like, well, they've clearly got a more biological advancement. That's why they win everything. Like, this whole, like, gendered, I find it just so backwards. And it's like, that whole thing there, it's littered with, like, hypocrisies and inaccuracies. So it's like, one minute you support them and you're backing people up, and you scrap those tests because you realise they're X, Y, and Z and they're discriminatory, then you go back on yourselves and bring it back. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, where's the consistency? And like you said, that's like 30 years of progress just to now put it in the drain. And all because of what? Why? Like, is there been a change in fucking leadership? Like, let's just go back to this article and just see if it maybe explains a bit more. Okay. Oh, here we go. New IOC president, Kirsty. Oh, there's a fucking woman as well. Oh, that's even more disappointing. She's probably a fucking turf. What a surprise. New IOC president, Kirsty Coventry, reversed the organisation's position and backflipped on its own 2021 framework out on fairness, inclusion and non-discrimination. A policy informed by extensive consultation and research which recognised the need for evidence-based, sport-specific and rights-respecting rules. Fucking hell, Kirsty Coventry, slap yourself in the head, love. What is your issue? Oh, it's always so disappointing. It's so fucking disappointing to me when it's always like comes from a group or a person who is already like a minority, shall we say, in the sense that like they should know what it's like. It's no different to that LGB alliance. I find it so baffling that a group of people from the LGBTQIA plus umbrella can go against like their own group of people, essentially. Like, in the same way that women, like, how could a woman actually like vote for Donald Trump, for example, when he's like a convicted rapist and he doesn't care a fucking lick about a woman's right? And it's like, Kirsty Coventry, you're a woman. You should understand the barriers and challenges, especially in sport, against women in general. That's a whole other fucking topic. Actually, go back a few episodes where I did a full episode on women's sports in general and the rise of it, because it's taken us a long time just to get here, right? And so, again, it's like the Nicki Minaj of it all. The Nicki Minaj, the magnification. It's just the way that kind of like people turn their backs almost on the same group of people that are very much on their same wavelength. It's just baffling to me. Oh, anyway, sorry, got a bit heated there. Got a bit heated rivalry over here. Oh, and that's the other thing, come on. The world, I thought we were going up in the world. We've got a bloody #1 gay romantic series that's like taking over the world. Ice hockey gay players, loving it up. Oh, I thought we were moving forward. Clearly not. So anyway, let's just get back into this article a bit, just to read a bit more about it. The new guidelines were developed by a committee which has not publicly shared the scientific oh, of course they haven't. Oh, anyway, sorry, let me read that without getting annoyed. The new guidelines were developed by a committee which has not publicly shared the scientific data that the IOC claims informed their position. In a press conference on Friday, Kirsty Coventry claimed all women athletes will be tested for the SRY gene, which multiple medical experts have stated is unreliable and reductive. God alive. It's actually so infuriating reading this stuff. In February, in anticipation of the IOC's guidelines, an independent expert panel convened by the United Nations criticised both mandatory sex testing and blanket bans, which revive practices that were previously abandoned following sustained scientific, legal and ethical criticism and risk reintroducing discrimination and other human rights harms. Girlies. I need like a bloody deep tissue massage after this to just calm down a bit, because this kind of stuff makes me just so incensed and enraged. Oh, so a lot of this is actually just kind of repeating what that guy on the TikTok said. Of the tens of thousands of athletes who have participated in Olympic events since 1999, just one has identified as a transgender woman, Laurel Hubbard of New Zealand. She did not place in her event. So I won't go on and on. It's a very long article, but like this really just reinforces the issue that number one, it's not an issue, right? When you actually look at the figures of, like you said, transgender people in general, or the athletes specifically, and how there's absolutely no threat in their general competition standard. And this, I do think a lot of it is just like this fear mongering, like, yeah, but like you got a bigger body and it's like an unfair disadvantage. Well, obviously, as we're seeing, like backed by fucking science and endless research and endless groups contributing to this, it's not a problem. But for some reason, someone just hops into a power of position like the Olympic Committee, probably feeds in to just the brainwashing narrative that society seems to think, well, not society, but like certain people in society seem to think that trans people in general are a threat when they're not. And it's just a truly disappointing outcome every time. And a lot of this also feeds in to what has been happening in the UK here in the last year or so with that whole gender ruling that they had in Scotland, where they legally essentially changed the definition of what constitutes as a woman or a biological woman. And a lot of that was fucking backed up by probably the worst transphobe of all time, fucking J.K. Rowling. Oh, I tell you what, I'm going to link a bunch of these articles in all the bios, right? And if you want to take the time to read through these in detail, then you can. But while I was just kind of doing my research on this topic and just having a little look through everything, I actually found this really interesting article on a website called theweek.com, and it's a timeline of J.K. Rowling, I don't even know how to say her name. I don't, like, quite frankly, give a fuck. A timeline of her anti-trans shift. And it's a really good deep dive that, like, chronologically goes through where it all started, in case anyone's obviously interested in that. I won't go through the entire thing, but it's just, there's evidence based of all the things that have led up to her anti-trans statements. And it's just like, how fucking disappointing that you built up such a iconic legacy with the Harry Potter of it all. But actually, you're just a knob. You're just a complete knob. And the way that this woman is so infatuated by trans people that she writes fucking books about characters that are characters being accused of transphobia. And it's like, oh my God. And the hilarious thing is, the irony is that she releases these books under a pseudonym of a male name. Like, girl, come the fuck on. Like, you just can't make this shit up. But I think the scary thing about J.K. Rowling specifically, and obviously this isn't just unique to her, like there's a lot of people in powerful positions with money and all these like dodgy far-right groups and parties that funnel money into these issues, right? Religious groups, the ADF, all of it, right? But in 2025, J.K. Rowling launched a fund for women's sex-based rights. So this woman's like a fucking, like, I'm pretty sure she's a billionaire. Like, she's worth like $1 billion or something, right? She's got a lot of money. And it's scary when people funnel their money so greatly into these so-called causes of theirs, when actually they're just funneling money into just purely discriminating people. In May 2025, Rowling announced the launch of the J.K. Rowling Women's Fund, which offers legal funding support to individuals and organisations fighting to retain women's sex-based rights in the workplace, in public life, and in protected female spaces. That is a quote from the fund's website. Rowling is helming the fund with her own money, an unsurprising fact given that Forbes estimated her net worth at over $1 billion. But controversy surrounds the fund, as many believe it's a euphemism for the anti-trans advocacy to which she has devoted herself, very, very true, and seemingly every waking hour of her life. Honestly, factual, so factual. This is also not the first time that one of Rowling's organisations has made the exclusion of trans people a core part of its mission, as the outlet noted that Bearers Place, a rape and crisis centre founded by Rowling in 2022, does not hire or provide services to trans women. Wow, that just says it all, doesn't it? Yeah, anyway, so, I mean, this, and again, 2025 was a fucking active year for J.K. Rowling. 2025, Rowling blasts Glamour UK for honouring trans women. Rowling criticised Glamour UK after the magazine featured 9 trans women on its Women of the Year list in October. The cover of the issue had the group posing in t-shirts and crop tops with the slogan, "Protect the Dolls." Oh, I'm so mad at myself. I should have worn that shirt for today. Oh, I actually have got a Protect the Dolls shirt. Oh, I'm mad at myself. I so should have worn that on theme for today. I didn't even think about that. Maybe I'll put it on for another episode. In fact, I swear I've worn it for a previous episode. Anyway, sorry, that's by the by. So blah, blah, blah. The group was posing in shirts, blah, 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 protect the dolls, a term of endearment used within the trans community to refer to trans women. Once again, Rowling took to X to express her displeasure, saying she grew up in an era when mainstream women's magazines told girls they needed to be thinner and prettier, but now they tell girls that men are better women than they are. Oh my god, no, they fucking don't. Glamour UK clapped back in their own X post saying, better luck next year, Joe, kiss. Yes, Glamour UK social media team, fucking take a bow. That's an epic response. Better luck next year, Joe. Sorry, hen. You didn't make it to the Women of the Year list. Rightly so. Oh, slay. Love that. 2025, Rowling chimes in on the trans ban of UK's Girl Scouts. Rowling once again jumped online, this time to defend Girl Guiding, the British equivalent of Girl Scouts, after the organisation announced that trans girls would no longer be allowed to join. Someone posted, "Serious question, who does this help?" referencing the ban. "Answer, it helps girls," Rowling replied. Oh, fucking hell. "It tells girls they have the right to things of their own and that they have the right to say no. It also reminds girls that the desires of boys do not supersede their feelings, their rights, their discomfort, or their safety," Rowling added. Oh, and this is what I take a deep problem with, okay? Let's not pretend to be a feminist and care about women's rights in the same breath as tearing down another person's right who is just entitled and equal to the same fucking rights. Put it on a shirt. I'm sorry, it's so hypocritical. It's like the fucking thuggy, racist people who stand out of, like asylum hotels or whatever you call them, and they're just like, oh my god, they're like, killing our girls, our kids are in danger, and like, we're not going to stand for it, so like, deport them all. Meanwhile, they are the very same people that like are domestically assaulting their wives and probably doing all sorts of things behind closed. It's just, the whole thing is fucking bullshit. I hate it when people try and stand on a certain moral high ground and use that. It's the same as these like neo-fucking national Christians, these like evangelical Christians in America who are like, it's about the Lord Jesus, and that's who we're doing it for the safety of our children. No, you're fucking not. If you cared about the safety of children, maybe you do something about the fact that your country doesn't have a ban on automatic semi-fucking rifles that murder all your children in schools. Just a thought. Like, sorry, I'm getting so riled up here, but it's just, just the complete hypocrisy that lies within these groups of people. They are so, like, proud of themselves and they really stand on business of like, yeah, but these people are at threat. I think the whole point of feminism in itself is the equality of sexes. That's literally the fucking definition of it. And in general, all human rights matter. Everyone's are equally the same. Men's rights, women's rights, people of colour, your sexuality, all of it. Like, we don't have to tear down one group of people for another. Like, look, don't get me wrong, we have to sometimes highlight, like, for example, in the world of female issues and how obviously we're aware as females that, very unfortunately, the biggest cause of, like, deaths in females is at the hands of men. And like, that's just a statistical fact, right? And of course, we have to sort of call out like that group of people almost, or educate them in realizing, hey, this is wrong. Maybe we should do something about it. And that's like a valid example to me of like where you can educate and have conversations with people. But actually, you can do that. Okay, I know we all like laugh and joke and like, ha, he, fuck man. Like, a lot of that is just very surface level. But at the heart of it is like, if you just have a conversation with a man in your life and you educate them like, hey, in this scenario as a woman, it makes me feel really unsafe. And like, it would be really helpful if you could help. You know what I mean? Like, people can have their opinions and have their thoughts and feelings, but like when you're just straight up an evil person who is just discriminating and choosing to be against someone just because of who they are, and they haven't actually done anything to personally offend you or ruin your life, I just think there's a difference between like knowing that there's actually a genuine issue and addressing that head on and la 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 without like trying to ostracize an entire group of people. But then there's also people like none of this is factual is the thing. Like, they sit there and they claim that, like, people are in danger. There are no threats. It's a made-up thing. Like, there's nothing you have to back this up scientifically or factually. And you just decide to spew rhetoric that is completely false and evil. And it just drives me mad. The whole thing's crazy. And just kind of circling it back to when at the start of this debate, I had referenced the book from Deborah Frances-White, which there was that part with the columnist back in the 1980s was like highlighting certain highlights and headlines, shall we say, of how language was used then against gay men, right? And there's actually a really interesting article I found. There is a charity called Mermaids. They are a charity that support trans, non-binary and gender diverse children and young people. They've been doing it since 1995. And they've got this really good sort of deep dive article, which again, I'll link in the bio. And it's like a research article into newspaper coverage on trans issues. And it basically, I won't go into the whole thing, but it essentially like concluded just the noticeable shift in the last, say, 10 years or so of like the jump in trans mentions, the way that it is such a like cultural topic now, and the way that so many publications make it such a thing when it's not. It's like we are seeing history repeated. We really are. And in this article, they include lots of like graphs, and they demonstrate how certain terms have like and the amount of articles that have hugely significantly increased. I think this particular study was like compared to say pre-2012 up until about 2019, something like that. And it's this comparison of just the coverage of stories about trans people. And like obviously in some of the cases it's not all negative. There's just generally factual headlines that references a trans person. Like sometimes it's just a word that is used to describe what the story's about. But like unsurprisingly, of course, there are certain publications that they know what they're doing. They're using like the trans word as like a controversial clickbait thing, right? And there's so many interesting headlines I thought that they pointed out. I'll just read you some of them. There's a little section where they're sort of referencing to like the relationship of the media when they're reporting on young children in relation to trans issues. And it's they use the language as though children are always at threat, right? So the Mail on Sunday, April 21st, 2019. Books given to children as young as 4 include stories about a boy who wants to wear a dress and one about a red crayon that discovers it's really blue. Like, you know that is being used as a clickbait, right? We've all fucking seen it. The Sun, all of it. They love to use these, like, what come across as these very, like, shocking things, right? And we know they're not shocking if you probably just read into it. Also, sorry, giving children stories that show inclusivity, sorry, don't think that's a problem. This is the Daily Mail, June the 1st, 2019. 2 drag acts hosted readings yesterday designed to show children as young as 5 that it's okay to be different. Well, in theory, that's like a positive headline, right? Yeah, it is great to show them to be different. But the way they sort of say children as young as 5, you know that the connotation of that is that they're trying to sort of indicate that, like, they're far too young to be taught. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, if anything, we should be educating people at a young age that, like, it's okay. It's acceptance. It's designed for a reason. They know it gets people talking. They know it brings in the clicks and views, and that's all these newspapers do. And they also newspapers and publications, not all of them, but many of them really do love to it's sort of like shocking clickbaity language they like to use to demonstrate like a bit of a negative connotation. So this one from the Telegraph, it was actually quite surprising for the Telegraph, March 22nd, 2019. As the police have become embroiled in yet another social media battle over who said what about whom, I fear even the grammar Nazis are no match for the militant transgender brigade as it rides roughshod over common sense. Now, I can't help but feel that just so much harps back to a similar history in the books of the way that Emmeline Pankhurst and the suffragettes used to be referred to, the militants. Like, it's this very inflammatory language, I think is the word. It's very inflammatory. It's very just like, this is a threat. This is a problem. And this is why the world seems to just be spinning in a tiz, because unfortunately, media outlets, not even necessarily right-wing media outlets, it's all media outlets, they have a lot to answer for. People in positions of power, politicians, they allow this rhetoric and this narrative to spin around. They let it seep into society and they make people think that it is a threat. And then unfortunately, people make very big decisions from that kind of rhetoric. They ban trans athletes. They change laws and definitions of a gender. And do you know what's hilarious? Well, it's not hilarious, but while they do all these big, big decisions, the one thing that they never do is they don't come up with an alternative. Not that there should be necessarily some alternative, but like, let's just honestly talk about like the bathroom thing, for example. If you're genuinely that threatened and you're that panicked about a trans woman going into a bathroom, well, why don't you make it a universal thing to create non-gender bathrooms everywhere? Or what are you going to do? Make a trans bathroom? Like, the whole thing's ridiculous in itself, and we don't need that. But what I'm saying is, just as like a theoretical example, is if you care that much, why would you not put actions in place to support all groups then? You can't just make like sweeping decisions like that and then not have things in place to protect those groups of people. And that's unfortunately what is happening so much, particularly in the UK. Like, since that stupid court ruling came out, the way that like that entire thing has to be contested, because the way that they made that decision without even the input of a single trans person is fucking ridiculous. And I think that's a whole ongoing thing that's actually happening in real time. I think they're trying to contest the ruling, rightly so. But it's like, what do you mean that, like, all of a sudden some judge has just decided that that's the reality? And, right, and even if that is what we all have to abide by, what, you're just not going to put measurements in place to, like, protect people? It's fucking ridiculous. The whole thing is a farce. It's a complete farce. And it's a topic that, like, just really makes me mad. Like, I care about a lot of things in this life, and obviously I'm a big feminist and an activist about all sorts of things. I don't like racism. I don't like any discrimination of any sorts. But there's something in particular about the trans debate in recent years that I can see is actively very prominent. It's a non-issue, but they're making it a big issue. And I hate that trans people and the trans community are being weaponized for people's own gain or political reasons, wherever it fucking is, just because it's the hot topic of the moment and it thinks people will sway votes if you say this. It's so sad that you're choosing to hate on such an innocent group of people who, in theory, are such a small percentage of the fucking globe. And they're just living their life like me and you. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not a threat to your children. They're not a threat to anyone. And quite frankly, the biggest threat in this fucking world is white straight men with access to nuclear bombs. Look at the state of the world we live in right now, hun. Look what's going on in Iran. Look who's in charge of all these awful situations. I'm sorry, the world would be a much better place if it was ruled by trans women or just women. I mean, not the fucking TERFs though. You can all stay out. You can get in the bin, hun. Don't want you around. Guys, we need to just like lock into this shit because it's crazy work. And I feel really fearful for like how this is going to transpire, because it was already a big enough shock seeing the outcome of that ruling and how it's obviously massively impacting people's lives now. And it's so sad, like, you know, the whole girl guiding, the Women's Institute, the fact that such big major institutes and things in our society are agreeing with that and just going with it. And it's like, this is wrong. This is wrong on all levels. And I just hope that there's like enough of a fight back. And what I truly, genuinely hope for is in the next 4 or 5 years, I personally really hope we see Zach Polanski and a Green government. I think him as a gay man, I would like to think, I actually need to find out a little bit more about his stance on all things trans. I've not heard him specifically speak about it yet, but I'm just going to widely assume that as a gay man, he's probably very supportive of trans people. And just like, I would just love to see a bit of a reversal of all the shit that's going on right now, because Keir Starmer has got no spine or no morals to help out the trans community, which has been really disappointing, really fucking disappointing from a Labour perspective. I think that's what I have found the most deepest disappointment since Labour came into power. Like, Keir Starmer, of all people, he comes from like a background of bloody human rights law, bloody, what was he? He was like a barrister, he knows about this stuff, right? And he has actively used cases in the past for his own political gain, truthfully. He used to be really passionate about the case of Brianna Gay. And Brianna, I hope I'm saying that, I never know how to pronounce it, Ghey. I think it is Brianna Gay. Gay? I'm not really sure. Sorry. Interestingly apt name. But anyway, she was a 16-year-old British transgender girl who was very awfully murdered in like a premeditated attack back in 2023. And at the time, fucking Keir Starmer's in the House of Commons, you know, he's using that to his, oh, it's terrible, it's an injustice, this shouldn't happen. And then fast forward like a year or so later, and he's supporting the Supreme Court ruling, or whatever they're called. You just think, complete moral U-turn there. How interesting. You clock those things. So I'm afraid for me, just on another political note, that is why Labour will not be getting my fucking vote, and certainly not Keir Starmer, because you can't just turn your back on people's rights like that and not do anything about it. It's just complete insanity. But anyway, God, I've really passionately got into this topic today, but I've enjoyed talking about it. And I hope that anyone listening has just learned a little bit more today about what's going on. Obviously, if you want to go check out some of the resources in the articles that I found, I'll make sure to link them all below. And of course, as usual, feel free to engage in some debate and comments. I mean, I'm not being funny. If you're a complete transphobe and you're not interested in having a productive conversation, then don't slide into my comments, because I'm really not interested. But if you care about people's rights and you're just interested, and you know what? In fairness, even people who have deep, concern and care about people's rights, it's understandable that there are certain elements of this topic that, would make you maybe start debating and thinking. Maybe the sports example is something that you've never thought about before and thought, is that right? But I don't want to come across like I'm being a trans. Do you know what I mean? Like, I get that it's a very complex conversation sometimes, and we're all a little bit scared of saying the wrong thing, and harping back to the book thing, conversations we're scared to have. People are scared to have it for various reasons, and I do get that, but it's like, ultimately, if you really boil it down, it's a very simple debate. It's, do you care about the rights of everyone? Yes or no? Should we be doing things to discriminate those groups? Probably not. But anyway, just let me know in the comments your thoughts, drop into my DMs, and I'd be interested to sort of continue this debate in future episodes, and maybe we can get some people onto the pod, maybe find some guests, or if you know someone or you are someone that would be interested in having a bit of a discussion around this kind of stuff, then do let me know. And as usual, drop a like, drop a follow, a subscribe, and stay safe out there, guys. Be kind to one another, please. Love thy neighbour. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, whatever day you listen to this. And I'll catch you. Oh, well, actually, sorry, now that I'm thinking about it. So I say catch, I will catch on the next one. So this is where I think I might potentially have a week away because of the timing of my life. I have to look at a calendar. I haven't got one in front of me right now. Let me see if I can figure out my calendar here. What's the bloody date now? This will come out. Oh, on April Fool's. Who'd have thought? Well, April Fool's Day to you when you listen to this. I will release this episode in a few days' time on April 1st. Yeah, okay, so this will be a break now, because after that comes Easter weekend, and I am away all of that weekend. I'm not going to get a chance to do a pod that week, but I'll try and get back onto it as soon as possible. I'll put some updates and stuff on my socials anyway, but just to prep you guys, there'll be a little bit of a break, but happy Easter holidays to you. Hope you have a nice break if you see your family and your friends or do something fun. And love you guys. Bye.